special presentation of EA Sports from the Coliseum in Oakland. Our tribute to the coach, the John Madden Legacy Game. One time for old times. What do you say we play some football as we are underway from Oakland in the John Madden Legacy Game. And up to about the 26-yard line, just across the 25. It's the NFC stars who will get the ball first. And, Charles, as we alluded to, we've got a different era of coach on each sideline. So the man coaching this NFC squad, we'll call him Young John Madden. This is a coach who was trying to establish a foothold in the NFL and on the cusp of doing it very successfully.
Yeah, you think back to that period, those early days as the coach of the Raiders, the late 60s in the AFL, and then in the NFL in the early 70s. Coach was a guy who was ahead of his time. The Raiders were one of the first teams to have mini camps, one of the first to film practice, because he wanted to practice coaching as much as he could. And his teams, they were successful right from the start of his head coaching tenure.
They'll wind up losing a rally on the play. Only a second and goal. They'll go again with Sanders. And he'll take this one up over the 20 to the 21-yard line. So as we mentioned at the top, well, let's take you through the life of John Madden. And, you know, it's very fitting that we're here back in the Bay Area, not just because John's so associated with Raider football, but also because this was where he spent his formative years.
Yeah, he grew up over in Daly City with his buddy John Robinson, who would also become an NFL head coach. He played his high school ball at Jefferson High, eventually wound up playing tackle at the University of Oregon, and later Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Played well enough that in 1958, he was a 21st round draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's right, the draft had 30 rounds then.
Wisnowski on to punt as he sends this one away. Good coverage there, holds him to just a 2-yard return following a punt of 44. And the AFC will take over, 1st and 10. So, Charles, as mentioned, we've got another Coach Madden over here on the AFC sideline. Of course, his Raiders, members of the AFC West. So this is a conference he battled in for his entire career. And you think about the landscape of the NFL as he was getting into the back half of his tenure. It was a golden era for coaches. You had Don Shula, Tom Landry, Chuck Noll, Bud Grant. But it was John Madden who had the best winning percentage of them all, CD. 759, the best ever.
Brandon, it's hard to believe he could be so successful in the conference with all those great teams. The Steelers won 4 Super Bowls. The Dolphins won 2 and were a mainstay in the playoffs. The Colts were tough. The Broncos kicked.
And he fires one that's intercepted. Picked off by the Hall of Famer Kevin Green. And they'll start with great field position at the 41-yard line.
Oh, this is a great play right here by a very versatile linebacker. It's a zone defense, so he's responsible for one area of the field. And Brandon, I don't think the quarterback ever saw him. Or if he did, he saw him too late because he snuck into a great position there to pick that one off.
The NFC offense coming out here, and you know, Charles, Coach Madden always said that if he had one drive to win a game and he had to pick a quarterback, he would pick Kenny Stabler. But I think if you asked him to omit any of his Raiders players, there's a good chance the guy he'd select would be Brett Favre.
Brett Favre is always smiling. He's always laughing. He's always talking to someone. He remembers that it's a game. And if it's a game, you should have fun.
And Brandon, that always reminds me of a great movie line where one of the players was telling a coach, every time I say it's a game, you say it's a business. And every time I say it's a business, you say it's a game. With Coach, it was always a game.
And the stop here will come at the 38-yard line. But Charles, you mentioned Coach was a 21st round draft pick back in 1958. It was the Philadelphia Eagles who selected him. But unfortunately for John, knee problems, they just continued to dog him. He was hurt in his first training camp. Actually never saw the field as a player in the NFL. But it was still during his time with the Eagles. You and I were talking about this before going on air, that you could start to see the light bulb going on for what his career. The NFC with the football here to begin the second quarter. So on 4th down, here's the Australia native Mitch Wishnowsky to punt this one away. And look at this. He's going to keep it. And he will not even make it back to the line of scrimmage. Boy, that's asking a lot of your punt team there. They were not able to deliver.
It's asking an awful lot of the punt team there because if it's 4th and 4, 4th and 3, you've got a chance, right? That's a manageable distance to try and pick up when you're running a fake. But when that number's actually been in the weight room and it's pumped up like it was, that's difficult to do, all right? So you might even think to yourself, if I left my offense on the field, would they be able to pick that up? You could run a nice play and not get that distance.
They go back to the air here after the INT on the last drive. Well, the NFC pressure a little too much as they get home for the sack. Multiple players combined for their team's first sack of the game. And they need to work to at least get some of this yardage back after the sack. 2nd and 19. That throw by Brady incomplete. Well, Charles, you know, it was in the early 1960s that a young John Madden made the acquaintance of the owner of the Oakland Raiders, one Al Davis, of course, and the two, they really bonded, would become one of the best owner-coach duos in NFL history. And to take it a step further, Al Davis became someone who John referred to as his best friend.
Yeah, 1967, Brandon, Al Davis hired Coach Madden to be a linebackers coach. Remember, this was still the AFL at that point. We had not merged totally with the NFL. And Coach Madden, he paid dividends almost immediately. Helped the Raiders win the AFL title in 1968. And that meant a date with the Green Bay Packers in what was now known as Super Bowl II. But by 1969, at the age of 32, just 32, Brandon, John Madden assumed the mantle of head coach of the Oakland Raiders. And what a ride he, the Raiders, and the NFL were about to go on.
Charles, you talked about John Madden and the Raiders going on a ride. Well, try these numbers on for size. So 10 seasons as a head coach. The Raiders won their division 7 times. They finished second the other 3 times. And he became the youngest coach to amass 100 career regular season victories and is still, to this day, the franchise leader in wins.
And when you think about it, that's where that rivalry with Kansas City really took root, as did the expression commitment to excellence. And boy, was it personified by the players who played for Coach Madden. On offense, how about quarterback Kenny Stabler, wide receiver Cliff Branch, wide receiver Fred Biletnikoff, tight end Dave Casper, to name a few. How about those great linemen he had? Center Jim Otto, guard Gene Upshaw, tackle Art Shell, all of them in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And guys on the defensive side of the ball, the Mad Stork himself, Ted Hendricks, Willie Brown, John Matuzak, Otis Siscom, and Big Ben Davidson. So many great players, so many great memories.
Charles, you think about all the success that John Madden had as an NFL head coach, and he had plenty, and we talked about it, including the 10 straight winning seasons, a Super Bowl title. But like any great coach, he also suffered through a few tough losses along the way as well.
And Brandon, those tough losses came in high-stakes games because they always had such great success. Think about it this way. 6 times in his 10 years, the Raiders were knocked out in either the AFL championship game or the AFC championship game. But might be a divisional round exit. That's the one that bothered him most of all. Three River Stadium, December 1972. Yes, the Immaculate Reception game.
And hit behind the line. He lost the football. It's loose. And his guys are going to take over at the 31-yard line. A defensive-minded coach loves to bring the heat. Brought the heat there, and it worked out.
And nowadays, all those defensive-minded coaches, for them, it's all about getting the football. I went into one facility, and as soon as you walked into the defensive room, there was a football, like on a spring, and each guy that walks in that plays has to act like he's knocking the ball free. They want those instincts created. They want them to think about that all the time, and that's what they're trying to preach.
On 2nd and 10, Brady. Over the middle, complete. It's Hall. And brought down, but not before reaching the 45-yard line. CD, we spoke of some of the Raiders' tough playoff losses through the decade of the 70s, but for one shining season, they put it all together, and that was 1976. You remember a 13-1 regular season, a memorable playoff win over New England. They dominated the Steelers 24-7 in the AFC title game, and then a meeting with the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl 11.
Oh, Brandon, what a game that was down at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. A gorgeous 53-degree day, perfect for football. Raiders got out to a 16-0 lead at the half, and Clarence Davis, no relation, although I would certainly claim him strong on the ground, 137 yards rushing. How about Freddie Biletnikoff, the MVP of that game, catching everything that came his way? Kenny Stabler running the offense with precision, and we all remember the one that sealed it, the grand old man himself, Willie Brown, with the laser-focused eyes, picking off Fran Tarkenton and taking it 75 yards for a touchdown. 32-14 the final score. Raiders had their first Super Bowl title, and we got the iconic shot of Coach Madden being lifted on the shoulder pads of his players and carried aloft as a Super Bowl champ. And now two problems as I see it. First, you missed the kick, which granted was a long one. But second, you set the other guys up with great field position and enough time to maybe get downfield and get a field goal attempt of their own.
Ready to begin their next drive here, the NFC offense. On first down, Favre. And that's incomplete. Clock stops with 10 seconds left. So after the incompletion on first, now 2nd and 10. Throwing is Favre. And he hits Jason Witten, the tight end. And they'll get this down to the 42-yard line. Well, coming up in the second half, we'll run through John's post-coaching triumphs. But for now, we present a very special tribute to the man of the hour, narrated by Trey Mosley. Boy, Charles, yeah, that is really well done. Coach was something else, wasn't he?
I'm reminded what Al Davis said when he was inducting coach of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Brandon. He loved the game. He loved his team. He loved the Raiders. He loved this league. And you can see it with everything he does.
No doubt. But it's quite possible, though, that now he would say, hey, enough of that. Let's play some football. For the second half, forthcoming from Oakland. Brady to the sideline, and wow, what a catch there. He doesn't get a lot, but he was able to get the feet down complete. Ball at the 24 and a 2nd and 11. Now a first carry for their fullback. So now, Charles, to pick up the story we've been telling, John Madden at 42, he just completed a 10-year stint as the coach of the Raiders. He wants to step away a bit from the grind of coaching, but he doesn't want to step away from the game of football. So he ends up signing on with CBS in 1979 to try his hand at broadcasting. And much like his coaching career, he was pretty much an instant success.
Partner, he really connected with the people right from the start, and people may not remember he wasn't even on the #1 team in the beginning. He worked his way up. But the same things that made him a great coach made him a great broadcaster. The ability to show the big picture, yet break it down into the details. That's what he did with his teams. That's what he did with the people. That way, he was simple to understand, yet insightful for viewers. And he did with that big personality that he had, one that connected with everyone.
They start on the ground here at Sanders. So for Coach Madden, Charles, by 1981, his broadcasting career is really taking off. He's elevated to the network's #1 booth that calls all the big matchups. And he gets the plum assignment of calling Super Bowl 16, 49ers and Bengals, and he's teamed up with Pat Summerall. And that pairing ultimately would go on to be one of the most influential in sports broadcasting history.
Influential not just in us listening to them. Remember, they went on and called 8 Super Bowls together. But how they put together kind of the template that all of us broadcasters follow now. Sitting down with the head coaches and the quarterbacks and the stars of each team before a ball game to get extra information. And the way that those two paired together, Pat Summerall, short, concise, to the point, and turned it over to Coach Madden to fill in all the big details.
As you mentioned, CD, talking about John Madden, the broadcaster, he called 8 Super Bowls with Pat Summerall. With Al Michaels later in his career, he spent nearly 3 decades in the booth all told. And not only was he beloved for his mannerisms, we know that, but he was an innovator as well.
Yeah, Brandon, you talk about things like the telestrator, which totally became identified with him, and now it's a staple for all analysts to have in the booth. And then you think about things like turducken on Thanksgiving, when you use words like boom and pow. He helped create the old Madden team. He was a very popular commercial pitchman. And even the Madden Cruiser was unique, and you had to be someone to get a ride on it, too.
3 quarters have come and gone at the Coliseum in Oakland, all tied between the AFC and NFC, and we are back now here on EA Sports. One of the bigger plays in the game thus far, and the crowd getting into it as we come up on a big 3rd down. On the draw, here's Sanders, and he won't be close to a 1st down as he runs into a wall right around the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play there, and it'll bring up 4th down. Seems pretty obvious defensively a key was stopping the run game. How have they done it so successfully?
To me, it seems that these guys really did a nice job of paying attention during the scouting report meeting. And you know, Brandon, when they do those, they talk about the top plays that these guys like to run. The best runs for the top running back, those are the ones you focus on and want to take away. And they've done that pretty successfully in this game.
And able to get this one across the 45 before he's brought down. Now, CD, we did get a little ahead of ourselves talking about John Madden, the broadcaster in the 90s and 2000s, because there was another product during that time period that he became quite famous for, and something that you and I know a little bit about, and that's the video game that bears his name. Originally John Madden Football when it was first released back in the late 1980s, and now known the world over simply as Madden.
And Coach saw this originally as a way to teach the game of football. The early designs were for a 7-on-7 game, but he said no chance. He would not sign off on it. He wanted to be as realistic as possible. He told him, call me when it's 11-on-11, and he got his wish.
Yeah, after that debut, Madden, the video game, continued to pick up steam through the 90s in a big way. And John himself, many will remember, was a commentator for the series for many years. And now here we are in the 2020s, and this game has sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 million copies. What a game it's been. Neither side giving an inch. 2 minutes to go. All time in the John Madden Legacy game. In need of only about the length of the football here on 2nd down. Another run with Sanders. And he'll work it inside the 30 to the 29-yard line. So, CD, you look at the accumulation of John Madden's achievements in the world of football, the coaching success, the Super Bowl title, the incredible career as a broadcaster with 12 Emmy Awards, Madden, the video game. It was very fitting back in 2006 that John Madden got the call to be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
A more deserving person you will not find. He gave an incredible speech on that day, Brandon. So many of his former Raider players were in attendance. He talked about how he envisioned that when the last person turns off the lights in the hall every night, that the bus talk football amongst themselves. And what a discussion that might be.
Yeah, he finished his speech by saying, today feels like the second time in my life that I'm being carried off on the shoulders of others, yet instead of off the field, it's into the Hall of Fame. This has been the sweetest ride of them all. And hold on here, because on that last run, it looks like we have a player who was shaken up. While they come out and take a look at him, we will step aside for just a moment. They'll try to run with Sanders, and he will carry this one in. Touchdown, NFC. A touchdown run there from a yard out as his guys have taken the lead here in the final 2 minutes.
Hey, that score deserves our respect, deserves our excitement. But I'm looking at the clock, and I'm thinking, there's a long way to go in this one.
Ideally, they would have liked to milk a little bit more time off. Now, on the other sideline, you start to get the crew together and say, this is what we practiced a 2-minute drill for, right?
Yeah, you hope you've been in that situation before, and if you haven't, you just have the confidence, hey, let's go down there and get this thing done. But, boy, that's a big score right there to give them the advantage.
Morton Anderson now for the extra point. His kick is good, and the NFC goes up 7-0. That one was an extended drive, 14 plays all told. And Barry Sanders the one to finish it off as he does so with a touchdown run. Following the touchdown, here's Anderson to kick it away. This take it in at the goal line. And some good special teams coverage as they bring him down just outside of the 15. The AFC offense set to take their next drive. And we've seen drive after drive come up empty for them, and they've yet to dent the scoreboard, yet still right in the middle of a one-score game.
So this is where you absolutely have to forget everything that's happened in your previous drives. They don't matter right now. You just mentioned it. One-score game. This drive here can erase all of what happened previously.
Back to throw, Brady. And this one taken in on the right sideline, but not in the field of play. They say it's incomplete. The throw led him a little too far. It brings up third down. So now 3rd and 10. They had the big play to start the drive, but 2 incompletions since. Now Brady. Oh, he forces one there. It's a potential dagger as it's intercepted. And he's going to bring this one back for an NFC touchdown. Well, I mean, both offenses have clearly struggled throughout, so kind of fitting that it's another big defensive play that yields points here in the late going.
Yeah, really, both of these defenses have been up to the task throughout this game, and we haven't seen much in terms of offensive creativity or results. And there, not only does the defense force a turnover, but they have the presence of mind to take it back for 6 points.
Anderson on for the extra point. Oh, they flip it to the kicker. He looks like he's going to throw it.
Let me go ahead and show my age a little bit. I liked it when they would fake it from the 3-yard line, right? When you'd line up, go ahead and, oh, there's a fake, and he's going to get 2. That's great. But from the 15, the risk-reward, it's just not there.
So risky to get 15 yards on a fake. Well, you see the result right there.
Yeah, I know these young whippersnappers are trying to do different things in this game, but let's go back to a reliable. Kick the ball through the post.
Get off my lawn.
That's darn right.
And he'll get it up just past the 20 as his guys will go to work at the 21-yard line. The offense for the AFC set to go now. They can't do much at this point, partner. This one is going to go down in the loss column.
You don't make up for what has happened during the game. In this sequence here, maybe you hand it off and let someone run the ball if you so choose. But otherwise, just kneel down, call it a day, and try and prepare going forward.
Throwing again on 2nd and 10. Brady. And this one is incomplete.
When you're leading in the final quarter, your radar has to be up for any potential deep shots. And probably not the last one they're going to see in this game, not as long as they hold this lead.
Now Brady. And that will be incomplete. So it's a win here for the NFC. Just an incredible afternoon of football and remembering the life of John Madden. And before we